IVM.
This is Audiogyan, and I am your host Kedar Nimkar. Welcome to a deep dive into the minds of luminaries from the Indian creative world. Jean-Luc Godard once said, "Every edit is a lie." Well, in today's episode, let's explore different dimensions and layers of editing. We have Nitin Baid with us on Audiogyan. He's a film editor and a director in making. Nitin has worked for films like Masaan, Trapped, Gully Boy, ET3, Raazi, Gangs of Wasseypur, Gunjan Saxena, and many more. So welcome Nitin to Audiogyan. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Kedar. It's a real pleasure for me also to be on Audiogan. It's quite amazing the stuff that you're doing and the people and the personalities that you're managing to interview. And thanks a lot for the invitation.
Super. Yeah, and thanks a lot for this. And as I said, I'm calling this episode as Power of Editing, and generally wanted to understand and pick your brains about editing. So I'll start with the most fundamental sort of question, like how do you define editing? What's your sort of definition of editing? And as we spoke offline as well, you wanted to take like a more metaphorical route
Yeah,
than
yeah,
really sitting on a table and
yeah.
cutting. So please feel free to.
I would define editing as like a way of life. Okay. So if I say what that means is ki you are constantly editing like when you're moving around in life and everything, you're constantly editing things. Like why I say that is like ki you're constantly narrowing things down as to what is the point. So you are like if you have a goal, you are constantly inching towards the goal while narrowing things down, and you are removing the clutter that's taking you away from the goal. Well, that's a larger, broader perspective I'm trying to give you in terms of of a very metaphorical idea of like just editing, how we perceive editing, like where does it start? Like you start from like your when you are born, right from the time you have been conditioned to like look at certain things, you are editing your parents tell you, okay, no, this is not right, this is wrong, this is so there's already an editing process that has started. And like it's almost like a like when I say editing process has been started, it's not like the film editing when we're talking about. I'm talking about just generally in life, anything sort of you're perceiving, you are sort of narrowing things down. You are making your own sort of judgments, and then that judgment, like whatever your upbringing has been, that judgment is like that upbringing is playing a role in sort of editing that scenario, whatever you're watching. Like if I'm walking through the road or something, and if I want to like you are sometimes you don't even look at someone or whatever, like because your point of focus is something, and you are even like you might be that person might be standing in front of you or whatever, but there's at that point of time you are almost thinking in a certain manner. You are your goal is in certain way and you want to achieve. You don't care about what other people say. So that is like for me editing pretty much starts like in a very basic sort of a manner. If you say what is editing, it sort of starts, it's like it's removing the clutter. It's always like that could be clutter for someone and it could not be clutter. That is a larger perspective. But it's almost because we are all conditioned in some sort of a manner as human beings and everything, conditioned to constantly chase, most of the storytelling is purely on motivation. Okay, what is character's
Hmm.
motivation? Where everyone asks ki character ka motivation kya hai, matlab what does he want in life? And that's where you when you want in life, what do you want in life, it's always connected to when you want something specific in life. Why am I watching this if I want this in life? Why am I spending time here? So when you are if you want to be a cricketer, you will no, I shouldn't be spending time in terms of this and everything. That's you are editing certain things of your life just to to find that certain goal. That's like a again, yeah.
Hmm. So sorry to interrupt, but I'm sort of little bit intrigued by this, because when you say you're cutting down or you're choosing, isn't it a choice rather than edit?
It's a, of course, it's
Because
a,
we have this saying na, you see what you want to see. uh,
exactly.
so
But
yeah.
why does the choice, like, you see, the choice is always there. But like I'm saying, ki inner sort of like your choice, like editing, when you go to film editing or whatever, you can always put like the same thing on the same fingertip. Ki, isn't it a choice that you have taken this reaction instead of that reaction? Instead of, so the choice, you can always say this is the choice, but somewhere that conditioning has been in terms of ki we are always looking for motivations. We are always like ki, and I'm not saying ki your day starts with certain motivation, like you will have like a certain plan for the day ki I have to go do this. Matlab, either it's been designed by someone else, someone like a boss or someone who has given you some sort of a motivation or some sort of a goal. You have a family to take care of, you have like this one. So what happens is ki like you, as you rightly said, ki the choice is there. Matlab, you can go and party and everything and kill your motivation and all that. But like ki, but you are conditioning your mind to know, I'm not gonna do that, I'm not gonna do that, and I'm just gonna declutter everything from life, kind of a thing. That's a very basic idea, thought of editing. Like ki, editing is what exactly? It's just like you are breaking down things and simplifying things as to have the most clearest communication. Is like ki, what is
Hmm.
my, what do I want to say, is where I want to, like if I'm explaining right now, I'm telling you in like 10 words, 10 sentences. Actually what I want to say is editing is just pretty much like just like a straightforward idea of me communicating certain thing without giving you any extra information.
So when you said it's conditioned, uh, and
Hmm.
in fact, when you say condition, you sort of killed my next question, which was like, then how
Hmm.
intuitive, or is it intuitive or is it planned? In both the realms,
see
yeah. In the filmmaking,
see
yeah.
again, filmmaking part, of course, it is not like it is very intuitive also, and it is like sometimes, because what happens is, now if you are moving towards filmmaking, what till now I'm talking about on a general perspective of like how life and everything in terms of how you perceive. Of course, I'm saying that that's just one way of looking at life. That's not like the way ideal, but it's just to explain the thought of editing, like what really editing per se means. It's like the saying something in the most refined manner where you can, like if I'm telling you, Kedar, I'm here to give that interview, I can say this like, Kedar, I just went to office today and I came from there and everything, and then you had an interview, and you said you could have just said I'm just came here to do the interview. So it's just compressing the information to have a clear communication. That's just like
Hmm.
a sort of a starting point. And then uske baad mein, if you say film editing, it is very intuitive in terms of, because you are psychologically playing with audience's mind. Okay. So why
Hmm.
it is intuitive in terms of like, because you are constantly playing, you are thinking ki, ha, here the audience is gonna laugh. Here I have to make them cry because this is my peak point. This is my narrative wise, this is a very strong peak point, and I have to make the audience cry at this point of time. So if certain things are not working, I accentuate with music, I accentuate with performance, I accentuate with certain other things to what makes an audience cry. Today, you like watch a certain kind of a film, whether you watch Masaan or something, you will have like a certain emotion that comes with it. Like if you have seen Masaan,
Yeah.
there's that really interesting moment where Devi goes to that guy's house. The Richa Chadda goes to that guy's house at the end, and we just
Hmm.
stayed outside. Like we didn't go, the camera didn't go inside with her into the house. And
Hmm.
suddenly your imagination changes. Like because you are suddenly making you think, because just purely from the oral sounds, you are imagining ki, oh, this could have been happening. Because you're not getting to see, your mind is working extra, like much more than what is needed. So that sort of a thing, these are the calls that you sort of take in editing, which lot of like play with the psychology of mind. And that's what like for me, film editing is pretty much psychology, because in print or media or anything, it's like about decompressing a lot of it. But in films, it's because it's such a humongous visual and oral medium. It's like a constantly, if I just show you a black screen and just play three different sounds, you will have certain images playing in your mind. And in that sort of a manner, if I open the film with certain thing, you like, oh wow, you've opened it. Like I imagined like something else will be there. Like I play the sound of a tiger or something and all that, and you are already imagining some forest or something. And I open to a shot of like a house, and there's someone else is sitting, matlab, with like a tiger sound or something is someone is
और
sitting on
टीवी पे
or
चल रहा है
TV
वो,
pe chal raha
हाँ.
hai. It's like that kind of a thing. It's like how you play with psychology of mind and how you play with audience's emotion.
Wow.
And a lot of it is lot of filmmaking, a lot of like as Godard rightly said, every film is like everything is a lie. It's like how well you can deliver that lie. It's most of the time you're chasing to be the most purest liar, actually, like the in a most purest manner. If you are connected to a narrative story and you feel like overwhelmed by the film by the end of it, that means you have really bought in that narrative. Of course, lie is a very like feels like a very strong derogatory word or something, but it's like, of course, you are creating a world. You are it's not something real, but you want to say a larger thought through this world,
Correct,
and that's
correct.
what you are taking back home with it. And how do I get you the larger thought in the most precise manner is the job where I come in. Is like where I see in ki, oh wow, why am I staying, because my audience is getting distracted at this moment, I need to get them focused here, kind of a thing. Like even as simple as like when you look at a screen, your eyes, first thing your eyes goes are on the right side. You're always gonna see something. If you know, next time you notice, either someone who's talking on the screen, your eyes will go towards that. Wherever the light will be, your eyes will go towards that. Wherever, and most of the time, 75 to 80% of time, your eyes will first look at the right side, very instinctively,
Hmm.
and you will look at the left side in like a few, like almost like a fraction second lesser or fraction moments later lesser. But that's how you sort of plan it out, ki in a very sort of a minute manner, ki if I cheat something, I cheat in a manner ki suddenly, like I know your eyes will go there, and then suddenly I sort of play around that kind of a thing.
करेक्ट, करेक्ट. इनफैक्ट ब्यूटीफुली ये जो लाय का बात तभी था ना, लाइक यू सेड
Hmm.
इट्स लाइक थोड़ा सा नेगेटिव कॉनोटेशन है,
Hmm.
बट जब इंडियन सॉर्ट ऑफ फॉर्मेट में डालते हैं तो मिथ्या इज ऑल्सो
Hmm.
लाय, बट इट जस्ट फील्स नाइसर कि मतलब ये जगत भी मिथ्या ही है, तो एवरीथिंग इज अ लाय एक्चुअली.
Hmm.
एवरीवन इज जस्ट ट्राइंग टू फाइंड दैट
Hmm.
purity in sort of expressing the lie maybe. Yeah,
Exactly.
very interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. तो ये नितिन, जो अल्फ्रेड हिचकॉक है, सत्यजीत रे है,
Hmm.
and many other filmmakers,
Hmm.
like I know they used to edit their films also, right?
Hmm.
And obviously there must be some other reasons also, like celluloid महंगा था, they wanted more control,
Hmm.
बहुत कुछ रहेगा, but then like how do you sort of define the boundary between the filmmaker and the editor? क्योंकि
How?
उनके उनके तो मोस्ट ऑफ द प्री प्रोडक्शन इतना स्ट्रांग रहता था, स्टोरी बोर्डिंग सब कुछ था,
हाँ.
तो अगर शॉट बाय शॉट एवरीथिंग इज नोन,
Hmm.
then the director itself can stitch it, right?
So there's like that there was a certain kind of a filmmaking. There's like two kinds of directors also. Okay, like you had a Hitchcock who was extremely prepped. He would storyboard the whole film, and what happened? See, that's what filmmaking is. Such a strange creature, na. It's like when you go out to make a film now, all your plans, because it's such a community making something together. It's never one
Hmm.
person, like one person, like one light boy fucks up on the set, everything goes for a toss. Like suddenly you lose through 2 hours on the set and everything, and you are not able to shoot the same manner you were planning to. So as much as you can plan, things won't play out as you imagine to be. Sometimes they do play out. Like Hitchcock would make like a lot of films in studio setups and everything, and once you achieve a certain position or whatever, like where you are like a primary director and everything, you will reshoot, you will do certain things as how you want it. But उसमें भी क्या हो गया है कि we are living in a digital age, and this the period that you were talking about, there was that films का period which was there कि where people were thinking before shooting a lot मतलब अभी भी they are thinking. But what happens is कि because वहां पर क्या मीटर चलता था फिल्म का, कि फिल्म
Hmm.
पे शूट हो रहा है, तो उस पे क्या होता था कि एक फिल्म होता था 8 मिनट का, अगर 35 mm है, 4 मिनट का है, समथिंग यू यूज टू गेट इन वन स्टॉक का, दिस वन 4 minutes you would get, and as many stocks you get or whatever. So you have to be very, if you are a low budget filmmaker, then you have to be very precise because this is what you have in that sort of a time frame. And what has changed gradually in the last decade is this digital age has made us like ferocious shooters. Like in terms of like ki shooters, when I say ki, like just like capturing has become like a just a general nature of human being, just to capture everything that way.
Hmm.
And it's like it's you will also relate to it. You have your phone, you constantly want to capture or something like you are not enjoying any moment. It's pretty much very subliminally very similar to you go on the shoot. Everyone is capturing every moment because they don't want to risk anything. Ki, हाँ मतलब I have all my angles, I have all my, of course I'll work on my performances, I've thought about it, but still I would capture. Like I'll tell you like a simple film, like a film which I worked as an associate for, a Hasi To Fasi, a long time back. That was like a 2 hour film which has like almost like 200 or 250 hours of footage.
Wow.
Like Gully Boy itself, like again, like in the same range, I think 250 hours or something like that kind of a thing. Because the duration and any other film, Gunjan Saxena, all these films, because what happens is ki you're shooting two camera, you are shooting two camera, mein, you are shooting all the possible angles that you can think of in terms of. So you are basically covering. Director knows what I want, but I could get something more out of it because I have two cameras, I have a certain thing, and I want to just get the juice out the most. Then I have the luxury of deciding on the edit, which is where the psychology comes. Ki right now, if you are looking at me, you will be smiling. Next cut me, you will be like, I'll tell you, ki, don't smile now. Just give me a serious, थोड़ा सा हल्का सा smile देना, ज्यादा नहीं, हल्का सा smile. And next
Hmm.
I'll say ki, don't smile only, just give a nice cold look. So I have all the four options in the edit. Now it's about me to decide, like me, and of course, director is always collaborative in terms of like the director is always present because you are trying to achieve that. And then it's about like ki, oh, so now we should like ki, actually वो ज़्यादा smile work नहीं कर रहा है. We should stick to something like a minimal smile because that is landing at this point of the time character is feeling. Because you can imagine you are written the script in a certain manner, but once you film and the script itself take its own shape. Like once you like when you meet writers and all, you talk about like, oh, you started writing this book, how did you start writing and the process and all that. And they say I started writing the character and then suddenly it came out of me and the character was started talking to me and all that. It मतलब sometimes you feel like कि ऐसा कैसे मेरे साथ नहीं हो रहा है, characters are not talking to me kind of a thing when I am going to
Hmm.
write and all that. How is it happening? But what they mean is कि it's almost like it's a trance state where you start shooting and everything, and sometimes you feel like why did I write like this person is getting angry at this point? But because he should actually not get angry or she should actually not get angry. She should actually be this. So then you take that variation. Then you think कि हाँ, I'll modulate a little bit. I'll see what works on the edit if I change. Like Masan, we had like shot the ending twice because we the one ending which was there initially was like ki very simply it was like Richa Chadda is sitting on the boat already. Vicky Kaushal just comes on the boat and our camera was on the boat. Okay, we shot that ending. And then we felt like we came on the edit and we were all there. Me, Neeraj, all of us, Varun, and all of us were there. And we saw it and we were like, कि, यार ये इतना convenient थोड़ी होगा. मतलब it's like कि, so then we wrote like that whole scene because that whole scene was in the boat with them, with just two of them. So it felt like कि ये क्या है, ये तो मतलब कुछ फिल्म बना दी, मतलब ऐसा strategic, मतलब दो लड़का लड़की को बैठा दिया and boat पे and all that. And suddenly, so we reshot the whole thing in a new manner in terms of like we
Hmm.
stayed far away from the boat and the moment just sort of hold on and suddenly the layer of Ganga and everything sort of played much more effectively. How two people are meeting together in Sangam.
Hmm. Very fascinating.
Yeah.
But then, how does it happen for like films like Birdman and all, which are like just like one long, one shot type?
Birdman is of course very planned out, extremely planned out. But उसमें भी, if you realize
Hmm.
कि they have a lot of blacks, मतलब there are almost there is a very lot of like a smart editing that is involved there. You will go like you will
Hmm.
have these blacks suddenly in between, which are your cut points.
Hmm.
Okay, so where you are passing through a black na, वहां पर you are changing the shot to something else.
Oh wow.
So you are basically changing or because you have shot it. Of course, like when you are shooting like a proper single take kind of a thing, there's a film called Victoria. If you watch, it's a German film. It's about a bunch of guys who go to rob a bank and all that, and it starts in the morning and sorry, it starts at night, the whole film, and ends in the morning, all in a single shot, and they have just gone and covered like the whole
Wow.
thing. So here the aspect what happens is ki you're planning. So they shot the film like almost like some certain things in the film and everything. They obviously you have to have like certain points where you are cheating, where you are stitching shots. So there's a new technique called stitching shots. Okay, so where you can
Hmm.
like कि I am taking a certain shot in a certain manner. I am taking like ये मैं ट्रैक करके ले रहा हूँ या tilt up करके ले रहा हूँ. Yeah, actually stitching shots will come in your, if you ever go on a stitching app, there's a stitching app आता है. So you want to stitch two different shots in a same movement. You have taken like कि इधर से उधर left to right, you have taken a pan, and then you have taken another pan from right to left. ठीक है?
Hmm.
So you want to stitch it up. It's pretty much works in the same technology, but here the because the stitching works in such a beautiful level कि you won't even realize. Like Children of Men बोल के एक फिल्म है इसकी क्लाइव ओवन की, and it's this guy who
Hmm.
made Roma also. I forgot his name. So this guy
Hmm.
is like he did like one single shot, which is like bunch of put together of 6 7 shots, all stitched together to make you feel like it's just one shot which is going on, but it's actually planned in manner ki we'll take from
Hmm.
here to here, then from here we'll stitch this shot, from here to here we'll go, then from here we'll stitch this shot. So it's all planned in that manner.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. मुझे याद है like the आनंद गांधी की एक फिल्म
Of
है
course,
राइट हियर
yeah,
राइट
yeah, yeah.
नाउ, शॉर्ट फिल्म है. तो वो तो दो दो शॉट है
हाँ,
बट काफी लंबे है. लाइक आई थिंक 20 मिनट 40 मिनट की फिल्म है,
yeah,
20 मिनट का एक शॉट है, एंड
yeah.
देन अदर वन इज
Say
लाइक
right
20
here,
मिनट
right
का
now में
लाइक
भी
वन
कुछ कुछ
गुड शॉट.
transition points I think उसमें you, if you go and notice now, you will get certain transition points कुछ ना कुछ है जो कि letting to go from one thing to another. If you notice, हाँ,
वो तो ऑलमोस्ट फास्ट फॉरवर्ड में भी नहीं है,
हाँ,
तो इतना
हाँ,
वो जब
I know,
मैंने
I
देखी
know,
तब इतना
हाँ.
ध्यान से दी. हम्म. तो नितिन लाइक मतलब देन फिर
Hmm.
एडिटर एग्जैक्टली किस हद तक नैरेटिव को गवर्न कर सकता है? यू सेड
Yeah.
इट्स अ कोलैबोरेटिव थिंग, बट इफ यू हैव एनी
So
एग्जांपल ऑफ
I'll tell you,
सॉर्ट ऑफ कि कहाँ पे.
like कि
हम्म.
narrative पे किस हद तक govern कर सकता है. A lot of it like कि I'll tell you like a film which I sort of re-edited, but like कि it's not like something which there's a film called Shersha, okay, which came last year. I don't know if you have seen it. So that film
नहीं.
has like it had like a very different starting point altogether. Okay. Like let me take you an example of a film which you might have seen also. So Gully Boy you might have seen.
आपने
हाँ,
आप
Gully Boy
हाँ,
you
गली
might have.
बॉय करिए. गली
हाँ.
बॉय के बारे में
So
आपका वीडियो भी है, तो मे बी
Gully Boy
पीपल
is
कैन लुक
something
एट
that
दैट.
you've seen. So Gully Boy is like I'll tell you like, of course mota mota stories like it's about this guy who wants to become a rapper, and he becomes a rapper, and then his struggle is whether he can do actually rap battles, and with other layers of like things of like his family life, how he basically rise out of nowhere to somewhere. It's like a classic struggle,
हम्म.
class struggle sort of a narrative of like this guy who is a musician and who has this aspiration and he wants to move out. Now the thing is कि see, एक man like in a Gully Boy kind of a story, the story beats will be the same. Okay. Now what I say is कि अभी changes क्या हो जाते हैं कि if you go and watch Gully Boy deleted scenes, okay. So Gully Boy deleted scenes में you used to have like this whole that morning shot where रणवीर wakes up, and अभी जैसे रणवीर wake up करता है and सीधा घर के नीचे आता है and वहां पर घर में लड़ाई चल रही है already. ठीक है.
हम्म.
सो
हम्म.
एक्चुअली ओरिजिनल में क्या लिखा हुआ था, ओरिजिनल में ही वेक्स अप, he goes to do like he goes to the loo. There's a whole long walk which is there. If you get to see the deleted scene on YouTube, you will see like he walks all the way, and then he goes and reaches the toilet only to realize his some friend has committed suicide. Okay, some friend has committed suicide, and then उसके बाद में he sort of like कि there's a whole sort of a suicide का procession है, उसके फ्रेंड का डेथ है, एंड दैट्स अ होल सॉर्ट ऑफ लाइक की aspect, and the first time he's writing poetry on the terrace is actually for the friend. Okay. So when I sort of saw it,
Hmm.
I was like, because it was written, and I came in the film like almost like a 1.5 month later, once they've started shooting. And I came in and I saw it, and I was like, matlab, I obviously we sort of like started working on it, and I was like, why are we writing poetry for the friend whom we haven't seen also properly, like through the course of the film? Why isn't he writing poetry for actually the mother? Because that's the narrative arc which is very important for the film. Because if he feels for the mother, it makes it so much more emotional. कि आपने अपनी माँ का that same moment was converted into that night where the father is coming with another bride, and he is getting married and is coming to the house with this new bride, and his mother has been asked to sleep outside, and suddenly he sees her from the top, and then next moment he goes and he's on the terrace, he's writing the poetry, and suddenly it has a different meaning altogether.
Hmm. समझ गया.
Like what you wrote for like a friend, and suddenly you have a much more deeper connection with the mother. You have got me at the emotional connection with the character. Ki, what a guy this is. Like these are the trick points in terms of,
Hmm.
because as you say ki, your storytelling should have like ki, something that you care about most of the time. Like larger major storytelling is all about like ki, you need a character which you can care about. You need a person that you can care about. How to make someone feel like I care about this guy. I want to watch what happens to his journey. That's why storytelling is the most beautiful art form in terms of like anything is like you are constantly selling an idea. You're constantly selling a thought. You're constantly telling a narrative and making people like believe in something, which is like a lie. Which is why I told you like when we were having like previous conversation, like offline conversation, I told you it's like pretty much like what's happening around us, like constantly, like whether it's politicians, whether it's like people, whether it's corporations, everyone is constantly trying to tell us through stories only that like they are selling an idea through these stories. So whether we are
Hmm.
talking about like a certain religion कि ऐसा होता है हमारे religion में, ऐसा होता है हमारे religion में, there's always a thought, there's an idea. It's like nobody knows what really happened in which religion and what religion, but like it's an idea that's been
Hmm.
formed,
It's
and
a
there's a larger narrative that's been concocted to make you feel like I should care about this, I should be part of this, that sort of a
correct.
narrative.
Hmm. Got
Hmm.
it. Got it. I love the way you said it's a. I mean, yes, there is finally a director's
Yeah,
authority and there's a director's vision, but it's
yeah.
still collaborative. So this Gully Boy gives a good example that like good mature
Yeah.
directors can listen to every sort of entity in the process of
Yeah,
filmmaking and then change the stuff. Yeah. So Nitin, I wanted to ask you one more thing, and then
sure.
we'll move to the to sort of the metaphorical aspect. Is that आपने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले भी बताया था कि बहुत सारे टू शॉट या बहुत सारा फुटेज लेके रखते हैं
Hmm.
राइट एंड वी हैव सीन लाइक बंच ऑफ आर्टिकल्स अभी सबके पास कैमरा आ गया है तो सब फोटोग्राफर बन गए बट फोटो की क्वालिटी पता नहीं
Hmm.
क्वेश्चनेबल है राइट लाइक then the
Hmm.
storytelling aspect comes in and then consistency comes in lot of layers comes in until you are people sort of acknowledge yes ये
Yeah, yeah.
फोटोग्राफर है राइट वैसे डिजिटल वर्ल्ड ने इफ यू कैन जस्ट हाईलाइट इन द फिल्म एस्पेक्ट क्या ट्रेड ऑफ्स हुए हैं और क्या पॉजिटिव तो आपके वो
Hmm.
वीडियो में भी है कि यू गेट मोर वेरिएशंस
Yeah,
यू गेट मोर कंट्रोल एंड यू कैन चेंज द स्टोरी एट
yeah.
द एंड ऑल्सो तो ये positives है maybe you can highlight some negatives. Did you see any negatives in your career or seen
I think negative is largely like unable to decide. Like, like with a master director with a very, like I'll tell you, like a Zoya or Karan, like these guys are like you can see they have a very sharp mind in terms of when they are going to direct. Of course, the experience plays a lot in that factor or something. Like even someone like Neeraj, like अभी हमने एक फिल्म की थी which is that Konkana and उसकी that Aditi Rao Hydari की. There's a film अजीब दास्तान में गिली पूची बोल के एक फिल्म है. It's a 40-minute film, interesting short film. So
hmm,
there is that aspect is कि अभी नीरज ने जब लिखा था, नीरज and there's this other writer Sumit Saxena, he had written there was like a two different tracks which were there in that story. If you watch that story, it started off in a very different manner. It's like it's basically about a Dalit girl who falls in love with another sort of an upper class girl in an office scenario, and suddenly when she opens up about her identity, things don't go as she imagined it to be in a relationship and everything. And like the idea of caste and how sort of caste plays, and there's like a larger, and then the film has its own layer as to where it builds up to what she does as to sort of take the revenge back or whatever. It's a very minor revenge story, but done in a very subtle sort of a manner as to how sort of like caste and this one sort of. So the idea is like I feel like what happens is ki, a lot of times I feel like out of like if you tell me like 10 people that you're working with, 6 to 5 to 6 are clueless as to what like clueless as in like they are still sort of like trying to figure what they want to capture. So I wouldn't say it's clueless also nowadays, because that's what the world we are living in, because we are constantly confused. We don't have direct answers. We don't want to give direct answers. And we, if you have the option, like why not utilize the option where I'm confused and let me get my confusion, all the options in the confusion, and then let me figure out on the edit, or let me figure out on something. So that aspect is a, it's a slight like a problematic at certain level, because obviously kitna bhi ho, if you are confused it reflects eventually in the film. Matlab, if you are like not clear about what you really want to say, it will always reflect in a certain manner. So that I feel as a basic, like basic negative sort of an aspect in terms of like this digital sort of a world kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And rest is of course like I feel like the amount of footage that you are dealing with and everything, but that is I I feel like yeah, I don't feel it's a bad thing or good thing. Like I don't think, because that's the way of life now, and I don't think it's a negative sort of. But as long as somebody knows na, whoever is spearheading the project, like a director, it's all starts from the director or this one. So at least as long as there's a clarity as to what I want to say or what I really intended to say, even if you don't know what you want to say, because it's okay to be confused also sometimes. It's okay to figure your path as you go
Hmm.
along, kind of a thing. And even if you know what you intended to say, that's also a great stop. That's also a great movement to sort of like understand. But we are in the luxury in terms of like certain ways ki you are just utilizing because you have that luxury. And I feel like
समझ गया हाँ टेक्नोलॉजी टेक्नोलॉजी
आड़
के
में
आड़
यू
में
वो थोड़ा सा क्या हो जाता है ना, तो
क्लैरिटी
लाइक कल
घुमा
ही
हाँ
परसों हम लोग बात कर रहे थे, मैं एक डायरेक्टर शरण के साथ में, हु मेड गुंजन सक्सेना, he was sitting and he was like telling me a similar thing only, we were discussing, and he was like कि, I'm wondering कि he started saying कि I'm wondering कि if I'm working with certain people and certain like I'm used to like a certain crew, I'm working with you, I'm working with someone else, I'm working with someone else, because these people add up so much to my project. So I suddenly feel ki if I'm not there, if these people are not there, how do I sort of like do I go in and sort of do it like in my own manner and just to see experiment wise how does it feel like? So what I sort of told him ki see, it's a matter of like there's no harm in terms of trying out, but the problem is ki it's not the problem, but the idea is ki the filmmaking is a collaborative medium. The more you accept it, the more you enjoy it. कि two cents Nitin gave me two
हम्म,
ideas. The DOP gave me two ideas. Production designer gave me two ideas. It's about like taking the best ideas and putting them and making it happen. And that sort of a thing. So there you are confused after like certain
करेक्ट
shots, because he's like he was like we were working on a scene and he suddenly said, I should have taken that shot now. I suddenly feel like I didn't take up that shot. मैं बोला अभी like obviously in a certain manner you should have taken that shot, but like he's like but at that point of time sometimes you feel like you are confused and everyone is looking at you on the set ki, should I take that shot or should I not take that shot? So that constant thing, that is like I feel like that confusion is a massive thing, which is because that freedom has come na.
करेक्ट
Film पे क्या होता था कि film पे I remember
या
working on Gangs of Wasseypur, how Anurag sir you would do it like he would like shoot in such a manner, they had a certain budget and all that, and they would like he would be very clear कि मेरे को यहाँ से यहाँ नवाज इधर से वॉक करके गया, या मनोज वाजपेयी इधर से वॉक करके गए, इधर से इतना हुआ एंड इतना ही चाहिए मेरे को, उससे ज्यादा नहीं चाहिए. So that clarity was like because it's an upbringing. They worked in a very hard sort of a way of working, which was Ram Gopal Verma's school of filmmaking, which was like a very precise filmmaking. कि पैसे कभी रहते नहीं थे, and you were already your mind is very hardwired to not spend extra buck, like कि कैसे मेरे को ये शॉट लेना है फटाफट निकलना है एंड ऑल दैट. तो उस हिसाब से।
करेक्ट, या इनफैक्ट दूसरा दूसरा जो एक्सट्रीम एंड यहाँ पर ये भी हुआ है कि मल्टीपल एंड्स बना रहे हैं और यूजर पे छोड़ रहे हैं। वो नेटफ्लिक्स का कोई एक एक्सपेरिमेंट भी था ना, यू मेक लाइक देयर इज दिस
या
इंटरेक्टिव
या या
टीवी स्लैश
या
इंटरेक्टिव
या
मूवीज विच आर कमिंग। सो या एनीवे वो थोड़ा सा एक अलग टेंजेंट पे चले जाएंगे। आई वांटेड टू जस्ट कंक्लूड विथ लाइक टू मोर क्वेश्चंस, एंड दिस इज मोर ऑन द aspect of editing at a more metaphorical level, right? And speaking about the digital world, fake news, these fake beautiful
या
eyelashes which you get on
या
Instagram, or cleaning up people in the photo. These are, or even like fake virtual backgrounds, right? On Zoom. Do you see all this part as of editing? And like, what is your take on that?
मतलब it's not like कि if you say precisely film editing, it's not film editing, of course, but it is editing, of
Correct,
course.
correct.
It is like कि you are
Hmm.
constantly editing. As I said in the beginning, कि you are constantly editing yourself to be someone. Like कि you, like
Hmm.
whether you're on social media, you have gone on a trip, and वो trip में you are posting a photo of like Maldives or something. वो Maldives के photo में, if you have a certain someone who's doesn't suit the photo, whether it's like economically or the in a certain manner, it doesn't feel like कि भाई इतना grand सब कुछ लग रहा है, ये
ये
फ्रेम में
फ्रेम
नहीं
में
चाहिए,
नहीं
तो you
चाहिए, ये
crop it.
फ्रेम में नहीं
You crop it.
चाहिए।
Why would you crop it? Is because that doesn't feel
हम्म।
like it. So there is that constant editing. We are trying to project a certain image, which is the way of life that we are living in, where everyone from like every human being, like whoever you will meet, and it's the way of future. It's like you are living in a lie, a big bubble of lie, and social media is nothing. It's just a bunch of like, well, it's most of the time it's a lie only as to what you are being seen and
हम्म।
what you, which is where you hear stories as to, oh, somebody has like I hear stories like, oh, like there's this like a person who's like suddenly posting so much about this other person and everything, and you're like, oh, they must be really close, and next day you hear like oh, something has happened and they have become like really. So I like this is a very generic example, but like because I was hearing about someone's relationship yesterday, I was talking to someone friend of mine, and she was talking about like how there's this couple who has broken up and everything, and there was like the PDA was like so much on display in terms of like you felt like fuck, matlab, they are really in love and everything, and suddenly they've deleted each other's photos from Instagram and everything, and like social media everywhere they've deleted within like 1 week of breakup. So it's like you're
हम्म।
constantly cleaning up, constantly cleaning. You feel like you owe the world to have like this act, and you sort of like constantly editing something to present a certain image. Ki this is what my image is, and I don't want to belong. If that thought is constantly running in your head, that kind of a thing.
करेक्ट। और आप वो फेक न्यूज के बारे में बोल रहे हो, वो तो
Fake
बहुत ही
news, तो
डेंजरस
yeah,
सॉर्ट ऑफ
but
सिचुएशन
matlab,
में आ
that's
गया है।
the, it is very dangerous.
दैट्स द अगली
Yeah.
साइड ऑफ, या
It
अगली
is
साइड ऑफ
like a
एडिटिंग।
very, very ugly side of editing. But again, it's like something that has not started today. It's been happening from like eons. But अभी क्या हो गया कि अभी डिजिटल एक्सेस फोन्स ज्यादा आ गए, तो ये फेक न्यूज अब बहुत बढ़ गए। मतलब वी हैड, मतलब हमारा सबसे बड़ा फेक न्यूज था कि वो जब वो मतलब इसको कारतूस में बोल दिया था कि भाई इसको मीट मिलाया है एंड एवरीथिंग, दैट यू रिमेम्बर ड्यूरिंग फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल एंड ऑल दैट, दैट्स वेयर द हिंदू मुस्लिम दैट फाइट स्टार्टेड, is like they are using
हम्म।
cows, this one, right at that point of time Britishers started giving this fake information in paper ki, they are using cows beef or whatever to put in one of the fire or something like the gun. So it's a very like a famous story that I'm sure we have all read, kind of a thing.
करेक्ट।
हाँ, मंगल
मंगल
पांडे के
पांडे
टाइम
के
में था
टाइम
तो,
पे, हाँ।
so it's like that aspect was
हम्म।
always there, but now it's become more prevalent because you are constantly doctoring everything. You are constantly doctoring, like we see like कि कुछ हम ट्विटर पे देखते हैं and everything, we get so panicked कि ओ शख्स कैसा है, and suddenly we realize कि some person tells us, ओ ये तो 3 साल पुराना वीडियो है, ये तो पहले भी मैंने देखा हुआ है and all that kind of a thing. या जैसे कि नहीं यार ये फेक है, वो फोटोशॉप कर दिया है उसमें, एक्चुअली ही इज नॉट स्टैंडिंग देयर और इज नॉट जंपिंग फ्रॉम देयर और समथिंग. So matlab, that is like a very basic aspect, but like the what politicians and everyone is anyways sort of like we are living in a world where you are talking about Trump, who is like talking about something, and like all this is very basic generic part of it. Like it seems like now that's the only way to live, matlab, because there's a classical conditioning. It's like V for Vendetta is for real now.
Hmm. Hmm.
मतलब it's like in terms of like what I mean is V for Vendetta is real for now कि like कि you are constantly being told something, you are constantly being asked to believe a story in certain manner, and that's the aspect of storytelling which they have figured कि it's the best way to like hammer people with so much information that they start believing it.
या या इनफैक्ट मुझे एक याद आया, मैं देख रहा था ये पॉलिटिशियंस कैसे नैरेटिव
Hmm.
चेंज करते हैं. लाइक मैं बचपन से पढ़ते आ रहा हूँ कि गांधी जी इज द फादर
Hmm.
ऑफ द नेशन. And like just few weeks ago I had seen on
Hmm.
Wikipedia, and I'm checking right now as well, कि Gandhi ji is commonly, though not
Hmm.
formally, considered as father of the nation. तो तुमने वहां पे एडिट ही कर दिया, तुमने आगे के जनरेशन के
Totally
लिए सॉर्ट ऑफ एक नैरेटिव में हल्का सा चेंज कर दिया. इवेंचुअली और
change
100
हो
साल
जाए.
में ये फादर ऑफ
हाँ
नेशन नहीं थे,
हाँ
मे
हाँ
बी,
नहीं,
आई डोंट
that's what it is. Like
नो.
what we hear about like today the information about we books में से certain history is being changed and certain history is being then
Correct.
मतलब nobody's questioning, but like that is what editing is. It's like you are conditioning certain minds and everything, and you are sort of basically once you condition through that, because you have certainly realized कि once you keep hammering people with the same information, they'll start eventually believing it somewhere, because eventually
Hmm.
what people will
Hmm.
like like I was reading yesterday that like half the billions, like the amount of camera that produces around the world or something, half of it is being used in China. Now China mein you can capture every single moment of yours, like ki every person can be tracked down at the deepest corner in China. There are so many cameras, which is what like, but that's the way of life. Matlab, that's what we gonna be having. But I'm sure, matlab, it's not like a good or bad thing. It's we'll see what it shapes up into,
It just,
because
yeah,
we are going in
reality.
a way,
Yeah.
cyclic sort of a manner. We are going backwards again in some sort of a manner, if you realize. And then I'm sure कि something will change. People will start figuring their own solution. Somewhere it will break. Some breaking point will be there, and all that kind of a thing.
Hmm. Cool. I mean, yeah, it's quite interesting. So I'll conclude with one
Yeah.
last sort of question, and which is more for, yeah, I mean, listeners who potentially want to get
Hmm.
into editing. So in the design world, which where
Hmm.
I come from, at least in the digital design world, एक good designer रहता है जिसको design आता है, थोड़ा बहुत copy communication आता है, code आएगा तो बहुत ही बढ़िया है. So ये ऐसे कुछ ऐसे ब्रॉड गाइडलाइंस है या टेनेट्स है, इफ यू हैव देम यू कैन बी अ गुड
Hmm.
डिजाइनर, राइट? वैसे फिर भी कोड और डिजाइन में फिर भी तीन
Hmm.
चार चीजें हैं. In filmmaking, there's light, there's sound, there's this tools, there are these
Hmm.
filters, there are these n number of things which
Hmm.
make a film, right? तो उसमें से कौन सा मास्टर करे, या लाइक जैक ऑफ ऑल बने? लाइक कैन यू गिव सम आइडिया कि अगर किसी को
Hmm.
एडिटिंग में आना है तो व्हाट कुड बी द एंकर पॉइंट? आई मीन, इन द डिजाइन
Hmm.
वर्ल्ड ना, वी हैव these now a term called as
Hmm.
T-shaped designer. T matlab the horizontal arm is
Hmm.
you know everything, and the vertical is maybe you specialize in
Yeah.
animation or you specialize in
Yeah.
user research. वैसे like कुछ reference point है editing के लिए?
So editing में personally there is like a no sort of a like reference point like that. But the thing is कि it's again boils down to a singular thing. कि do you enjoy creating stories, and do you enjoy like creating narratives out of visual and oral medium? First of all, for anyone who wants to become an editor, it's the very basic necessity. You're like you should have an understanding of a very strong understanding of narrative. Narrative primarily when I'm talking about like uh, when it's related to visual editing of any kind, which is like what we are dealing with, like your understanding of narrative is something that you should enjoy, and how you to use visual and sound in the best possible manner, or at least like that is anticipation or aspiration to use it in the best possible manner. So that is a very starting point for anyone. उसके बाद में see there is
Hmm.
like as I said कि there is no sort of a hard and fast rule for any of this. Like thankfully, as you know, I'm sure with design also, some people are really born with like the talent ki, the way they think, the idea of symmetry and idea of like design and idea of patterns it comes very easily to them. And sometimes it's like the
Yeah.
same with editing. It's like sometimes some people are just very good with, like, when it comes to narrative, they can quickly figure ki there is, like, why is this beat not there? This beat can make so much difference in terms of the narrative and all that. So that aspect is something that will be only imbibed, and the more you sort of do it, the more you learn more about the craft. So the idea here is to you figure out your own path per se, like whether you want to go to a film school, whether you want to learn under someone, whether you want to start like making your own stuff, and through that you want to learn. Like you can make like a very visual and
Hmm.
sound film. Like you can, there are people who have made films with like stuff like he just shot at home. Like there's an Iranian filmmaker, Zafar Panahi. He's been imprisoned in his house. He's been under house arrest, and he's made 3 films in the house arrest, just in his house.
Wow.
And it's a very engaging like films which he has managed to make and all that. So it's about like what you do with your energies in terms of how you want to utilize and what sort of a disposal that you have. Of course you need a machine and all that kind of a thing, the well,
हाँ
that
वो
is
तो
the
ठीक है
physicality
correct.
of that is aspect, but it all stems from, like, if you want to become an editor, the basic thing is ki your drive towards narrative and sound and visual medium. These are the 3 core things that you need to start off with, and rest, of course, as you sort of start working, you or yourself figure many more new things kind of a way on the way.
या मैं इसमें मेरा एक जोड़ देता हूँ
Hmm.
फ्रॉम माय एक्सपीरियंस कि अच्छा एडिटर को ढूंढो और
Hmm.
फॉलो करो, इंटर्नशिप करो, अप्रेंटिसशिप करो, ऑब्जर्व करो, फॉलो इन नॉट द ट्विटर सेंस, ट्विटर पे
Yeah,
मत फॉलो करो. या आई मीन I've seen that really helps in once you find a mentor, once you find sort of someone who was like हाँ कुछ कुछ तो
yeah,
डिटेलिंग किया है, if उनको फॉलो करेंगे तो
totally.
बेटर रहेगा. Cool. I think this is a good note to end. Obviously, editing के बहुत
I'm
aspects
sure.
होते हैं and we can deep dive in multiple
Yeah,
directions, but I think this for now, this is
yeah.
good for now. Thanks a lot, Nitin, for giving your time. It was good talking to you, and
Thank you,
yeah,
Kedar.
once again,
Likewise,
thanks.
it was great talking to you. Hope we can have more conversations in future.
Sure, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. For show notes and more Gyan, visit audiogyan.com. And if you wish to connect with me, I am at Audiogyan Moments on Instagram. Until then, take care.
Hello! It's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On This Round is on Me, Gauri is joined by Shweta Nanda. They talk about the financial independence and how it is to be a woman entrepreneur. On Anish Thing, Anish welcomes ultra marathon runner Shivani Gharat. Shivani shares her journey of how she ran her first marathon, the mindset of a runner, and what it actually takes to run a full marathon. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Naveen, Akash, and Shreyas talk about the Korean band BTS serving in the military and its repercussions. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita discuss Wing Greens and their latest acquisitions and about the Indian sexual wellness market. And on Shunyavan, Sheila Datya is joined by Dinika Bhatia, CEO and founder of Nuttigrities. They talk about coming from a business family and Dinika's journey in creating healthy and guilt-free snacking. Once again, don't forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcast.com. We have some exciting new merch out there for you. Also, do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And do remember to spread the word about these shows and any other shows you might be listening to. Appreciate them, rate them, and review them wherever you are listening to them. You can also check out all our other shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week. Volvo XC40 Recharge, Bumble, Heads Up for Tails, Kotak Privy League Program, and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thanks guys, without you this would not be possible.
Do you often find yourself surrounded by conversations about Web3, blockchain, NFTs, DAOs? What are these terms and how do they affect our future on the internet? So many questions, but don't worry, we've got answers to all your questions. Hi, I'm Eklavya Bhattacharya, and on our show Future Proofing, we try to decode the impact of these future technologies on various industries with experts and tech enthusiasts. Tune into new episodes coming out every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app and the website, or wherever you get your podcasts from.